Good morning, Alasdair. Thanks very much for joining us today. My first question is, what do you like about your work?
Morning, Tom, and thanks for having me on the channel. What do I like about my work? Well, I think being an in-house lawyer, as I am now, because I'm the general counsel of Covent Garden Market Authority, gives you a very interesting twist on the classic sort of lawyer's career path, because instead of being someone who looks after one client's needs and then maybe moves on to another one and moves on to another one after that, you're embedded within the business and you see a whole range of all the things that business does. The business of Covent Garden Market Authority is running a market, food and flower market, fruit and vegetable and flower market, I should say, for central London and Greater London. So that business is kind of focused on delivering that statutory purpose. But within that, there's all kinds of different activities that go on and different things that a lawyer's advice might be needed in relation to. So, for example, one of the things that's come up recently is that the lockdown rules and whether they apply to parts of the market and how they apply. And so we had to navigate all of that and advise market traders on the sort of implications of the COVID regulations. So it's a different but a very rewarding angle on the legal profession, because you become involved in all of the aspects of the day-to-day running of the business.
Excellent. And how did you start out?
So I started out at a small legal practice, relatively small by the standards of some of the huge firms out there, in the Lake District, actually, which is where I'm from, or near enough where I'm from. And it's a firm called Temple Helis, and they are a very long established firm in that part of the world. And I was doing all kinds of different things for local people. I was, helping out with wills. I was dealing with disputes relating to property and disputes relating to employment and things of that nature. I was buying and selling houses for people. And also it was the time when the new licensing legislation came in. So I helped out with the transition from the old licensing laws for pubs and hotels and things to the new licensing laws. So it was a really good grounding, because I got a very hands-on training, which sometimes at the bigger firms you don't get such a hands-on experience. You get amazing kind of theoretical training from all their in-house training resources, but you don't actually get to do as much of the work yourself, mainly because the work is extremely high value and very sort of pressurized, and so the partners can't let you do as much of it because you're relatively inexperienced. But when you're at these smaller firms, often the work is shall we say less fraught with risk, and so the partners are able to let you take on more of it, and that's what happened. And so I had a really good grounding, and then I moved on to a big firm in Leeds called Pinsent Masons, and I became a full-time property litigation lawyer. Because what you do at the end of your training contract is you specialise in a particular area. So I chose to specialise in property litigation, and I did that at Pinsent Masons for a few years, and then a couple of other firms. Norton Rose Fulbright, and then DLA Piper latterly, specialising in property disputes, all kinds of disputes related to property, dispute resolution, as well as actual litigating through the courts. And that's kind of how I ended up at New Covent Garden Market, because they were involved in a tricky dispute with their tenants, quite a long-running dispute, and they needed someone to come in and help act as a liaison between the business and the lawyers and the tenants, and to kind of pull it all together, really, because it was all getting a little bit difficult to kind of grasp the whole thing. And so that's what I came in and did, and I've been doing ever since. And then obviously it's widened out into other aspects of running the business, like day-to-day contracts, and also because we're a public body, the Covent Garden Market Authority, we have a whole statutory constitution, which means a constitution that's sort of set out in Acts of Parliament, and we have to do things in accordance with that. And that includes certain committees that we have to run, for example, and various protocols that we have to go through with regard to that. So there's quite a heavy load of sort of governance related. Well, that makes it sound onerous. It's not. I enjoy it, but there is a lot of that type of work, of ensuring that we reach out to the right people in the right ways and make sure that their voices are heard and that everything proceeds fairly in accordance with the Act.
Mm. What would you say to someone starting out today?
I think that's an interesting question. Lots of things potentially. There's no substitute for experience, so it's always a good idea to get experience of whatever kind, and it doesn't have to be in a massive firm, glamorous city firm. It can be in your local practice, or if you want to go down the route of being a barrister, it can be in a set of barristers' chambers, or just try it, get some experience of it. Unpaid, go and do a little internship or whatever you can to get a feel of whether it's right for you. And then I would also say, don't get kind of drawn into the whole idea that it has to be the sort of big city firms, that's the only way in which you can get a good training, because there are many ways in which you can train. You can do what I did and train at a smaller firm. Some big companies offer training contracts to the solicitors, to their in-house lawyers. And so, yeah, be open-minded about that, and then play the long game. It's, you never know. That there can be tremendous pressure, I think, in the modern world for people to be super successful super quickly. And sometimes there are some aspects of law that there really is no substitute for experience for. And you've just got to do it for a period of time. And I think that applies to litigation more than quite a lot of areas, because you get a feel when you've been involved in litigation for a while of how the courts are going to react to things, how the other side are going to react in a certain situation, what arguments are going to fly, what arguments aren't. And that really comes with experience. You can learn all the law you want, so you can be a brilliant, clever lawyer, and you've got it all up there, but you won't actually be a really good lawyer unless and until you sort of develop that experience. So kind of take the view that you're going to have to really build up your bank of experience, and just be open-minded. You never know when an interesting opportunity is going to come along. I didn't plan, when I went into the secondment with the Covent Garden Market Authority, I didn't plan for this to be my career move. I wasn't intending to kind of make the jump to in-house work, but it went really well, and I liked the people I was working with. I enjoyed the job, and in the end, it became a permanent opportunity, and I decided to take it. So yeah, just be open-minded.
Excellent. And lastly, how will Covent Garden Market be serving London in 20 years' time?
In 20 years' time, well, for all the developments in electronic communications and people ordering online and everything, becoming business being transacted in cyberspace, at the end of the day, people have still got to eat, and people are still going to want to buy flowers, and the market's still going to be there, servicing the Greater London area, with the best quality flowers and the best quality fruit and vegetables for many years to come. And so that's where I see it. It will. I would imagine that the businesses on the market will develop more in line with sort of service with online orders and perhaps doing some of the stuff that they started doing as a result of COVID. Some of the box deliveries, perhaps that will become more popular. Fundamentally, the core business to take the fruit and vegetable side, the core business is really servicing high quality restaurants and catering. I think I'm right in saying that if you add up all the Michelin stars that are to have been won by the chefs to whom we supply fruit and vegetables, it's 67 Michelin stars. So So that, there's still going to be high quality restaurants in London, Michelin starred restaurants in London, and I very much hope that the market is still going to continue to supply them in the future, and that's where it will be. I hope and I expect in 20 years' time.